A lot of times we worry about finances. We worry about providing for ourselves, for our families, maybe for our families first even. And sometimes that worry is natural and it's planning and it's fine. And sometimes that worry creeps over into something that's more spiritual. That is us worrying that there won't be enough and that somehow God won't be with us. What we see in the gospel today in the readings today, are two examples of women, of widows, who do just the opposite. Even though they worry, there's something that motivates their spirit for them to trust the Lord. Widows, orphans, aliens, that is, strangers in your land. For Israel, these are the poorest of the poor, and it's the standard by which God always judges Israel. It keeps coming up in the prophets and in the Psalms. How did you treat those who were on the margins of society and had no recourse to make a living for themselves? Widows, orphans, strangers. Certainly, Elijah, as prophet, brings the word of God to this widow and her son, a widow and an orphan, at Zarephath. And she's in a position to think, this is it. I have nothing else. But a word comes and speaks to her, and somehow it's enough. And I think we can get too bogged down in figuring out the physics of this miracle of a jar of flour and a jar of oil that never runs dry. I think the point is her faith. That somehow in a difficult situation, her faith, her trust is enough. So too for the widow that we see in the gospel today. I mean, this is not a cash culture. It's a barter culture. The economic system has cash in it, but nothing like ours. And so that this widow would even have a couple of coins is something to take note of. And that she gives those coins, it really does speak to, I think, her trust. What Jesus is telling the disciples. Even these who are poor, who are on the edges, trust God enough to give. Trust God enough to have their worry not consume them so much that everything is on them and nothing is on God, that they're alone in it. I think both of these examples are strong examples for us, and on a Stewardship Sunday, strong examples for us of finding that balance between planning and being responsible and not worrying too much and trusting that God will work with what we have. Today we have the great honor and fortune to hear from Sheree and Randy Gause to speak to this issue. So I invite them forward.
Good morning. Randy and I got the call a couple of weeks ago from Kevin Lovejoy about giving this witness talk. When we were asked, I told Kevin that our story was a little different. Randy is a Presbyterian, honoring my Catholic belief. Was that okay? Well, here we are. I guess it was. Besides, who could ever turn down a man with the last name of Lovejoy? And now we get to check this off our list. Between the sheer weight of this request, there was a certain beauty and reflective nature. Randy and I had to push the pause button, rewind, and play back the journey of our own sacred story. Because of our age, it was a long rewind. Remembering our path gave us a profound sense of God's presence, blessings, and protection. We saw where our treasures were and where our hearts had been. Here's some rewind. My mother was born to a German Catholic immigrant parents who raised their family of 12 children on a farm in North Dakota. She was a devoted, obedient Catholic. My dad was also German, one of 5 children raised in Montana. He was a stubborn, quiet, hard-working Mormon. And yes, that was intense. Life and love was messy, but filled with divine mercy. Dad was baptized and confirmed a Catholic in his late 60s. I was baptized, confirmed, and attended grade school at Holy Family in Seattle and was in the first graduating class of John F. Kennedy Memorial High School. My first visit to St. Patrick's Church was in the early 1970s. Father Morcourt was the pastor then. I just finished dental assisting school at Bates and was working in a dental office on 6th Avenue. I met this handsome senior at UPS on a blind date. 18 months later, we were married at Holy Family Church by Randy's Presbyterian minister and my Catholic priest. We had 3 sons who attended St. Patrick's School and then went on to graduate from Bellarmine. There are 6 grandchildren, and number 7 is on the way. We have been parishioners here at St. Patrick's Church for the last 27 years.
And now a portion of my rewind. I was born in Colorado, but have spent most of my life in the Tacoma area. My history goes back to the World's Fair, big earthquakes, Columbus Day storm, soapbox derby days, Tacoma Giants baseball, and even witnessing President Kennedy speak at Cheney Stadium. I learned my Bible verses at First Presbyterian Church, attended Geiger and Truman schools before spending my high school years in central Wisconsin. After my father's work with Weyerhaeuser moved us back to Tacoma, I got my degrees at TCC and the University of Puget Sound. As a senior at UPS, I found my first lifelong passion, this wonderful Catholic girl. And we speak to you today, just a couple months shy of our 40th anniversary. As we began our family, I discovered my career passion in aviation, first in management and operations, then as a pilot flying corporate jets. I was fortunate to spend my entire pilot career flying out of Boeing Field and retiring in 2010. Aviation blessed me with a chance to have eagle's wings and to observe some of God's wonders here on earth. No matter how many time zones I crossed and places I visited, it was always a joy to come home to God's country, the Pacific Northwest, and specifically the St. Pat's community. Another of my passions as the father of 3 boys was coaching. First hockey, CYO soccer, CYO basketball, and finally high school basketball. I am now in my 23rd year as a boys varsity assistant coach at Bellarmine. I even recruited Sheree to run our concession stand. I figure about 10,000 hot dogs later and untold brownies and cookies, she is a vital part of the team. We are all part of God's team, and He is the ultimate coach. Look at our St. Pat's parish team here, our church lay team, our school team, and of course our pastoral team, made up of the 3 Jesuit priests, Deacon Bill, and our pastoral coordinator, Kevin. We each have our own role with this team. We each bring our own treasure and talents. Each one of us can make a difference, but as a team, our efforts are multiplied in so many ways throughout the community. Our stewardship gives us the opportunity to maintain and participate in over 40 plus ministries. In looking back on our family involvement of giving, I realized that it has become a vital part of our personal infrastructure. What a great habit it has become.
Sacrificial giving was bred into my mind from my very Catholic mother. I grew up seeing that envelope going in the basket every Sunday. When I was in my teens, she would allow me to write the check out, and then she'd sign it. And when I questioned the amount, the quotes came. You could never outdo the Lord's generosity. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be, and the Lord loves a cheerful giver. End of quote. In the beginning of our marriage, we were struggling to make ends meet. I was working full-time and raising 3 very active boys. Randy was on that long road to becoming a corporate jet pilot. Life was pretty messy and intense, but always filled with divine grace. We were anonymous givers at the beginning. We shared our talents and time. As little time as we had less money. When the boys were of school age, my very smart and scheming mother offered to pay for the first year of Catholic education for the boys. We were hooked, but there was a hook. If you wanted to get the in-parish tuition, you had to use that envelope, actively attend this church, and do your volunteer hours. We followed the rules and did more. I began setting down a planned amount. It started with 5% of our income, and we gave the other 5% to other charities. Randy always had one eyebrow up as I increased our amounts proportionately, but he always supported my giving heart. This duty fostered a spiritual birth of gratitude and trust with a vital connection to this parish. Sometimes our giving meant we went without some fun things, but all of our needs were always met. I also discovered the more we gave, the more the floodgates of God's love and blessings flowed. It was Jesus in the Eucharist that I loved. Guided by this love, and through the years, I joined 4 ministries offered by our community. Recently, I became a Eucharistic minister of the sick and shared my love of the sacrament with my best friend and her husband just weeks before she died. I stood right here and said the rosary at her vigil. What a gift that was for me. The outpouring of love and support from this community was so caring and healing. I will be forever grateful. Another ministry that I enjoy is our Walking with Purpose Women's Bible Group. Last week, one of our ladies drew our attention to what stained glass was. She said, "It's just delicate and beautiful broken pieces of glass." Well, we are those broken pieces of glass in every shape and color. When all those pieces are put together, something very beautiful takes shape. And it truly comes alive with God's sunshine shining through it. I would encourage you to hit the pause button in your life for a moment, be silent in His presence, be amazed at all the gifts and blessings pouring into your life by God.
In closing, Sheree and I want to thank all of you for being supportive teammates on our personal journey here at St. Pat's. Stewardship of Treasure has worked in our life. We know it can in yours. As we approach Thanksgiving, we give thanks with a joyful attitude for the many blessings that all of us have received and experienced. Stewardship asks us to stretch ourselves and our efforts for the team and make a prayerful, planned commitment for the upcoming year. Go Church.
Well, there's not much more to say, and sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. All the people who are here, almost all of you are regular givers. But every November, we ask you to make a prayerful, intentional gift to the church. That allows this church to keep shining brightly up here on the hill on the north slope. St. Pat's is a vibrant community, but it takes the support of every single member of our parish to keep that vibrant community shining brightly. So what we would ask you to do over the next few days is to prayerfully, intentionally consider how you can support financially the work of this parish. There are some envelopes in the pews, but most of you received letters as well. So what we would ask you to do over the next few days is to take those envelopes and as a couple, as a family, prayerfully consider how you can continue to support this work. If you'd like to do that today, please do so. Those envelopes are here. But if you need some time, please, as Sheree said, hit the pause button. Reflect. 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 And when you're ready, make that pledge, because this community is truly, I believe, worth supporting. Again, thank you to Randy and Sheree. They've been a great shining example here at the parish for a long time, and in 2 months we'll celebrate with you on that 40th anniversary and with your children and grandchildren. One of the kids is here today. You should be proud of mom and dad. Fantastic job. And again, to reiterate, go church. Thank you.